Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
You can hear me and see me. Welcome to the next installment of the Harnessing Happiness Black Male Leadership Roundtable. I have three very esteemed Black men that I hold in high regard. Truly am thankful for them to offer their lived experiences and um, their opinions and their critique of this thing we call happiness. Um, for those who don't know me, I am Dr. Eric Charlton. I am the creator of the Harnessing Happiness series, and really am particularly interested in Black men and how we define our happiness. I know we have several different lived experiences, and I like to capture and garner those lived experiences. It adds, something additive to my life, and I know it'll add to others as well. So, with that being said, I want to go around the panel and have each one of you gentlemen introduce yourself. Take about 45 seconds to a minute, and then we'll get right into it. So I'll start with Victor, Mr. Jones.
Mhm. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Victor Jones. Um, I currently am the community business liaison, career transition liaison for the Dayton Job Corps Center. I've worked in education for over a decade, and I feel myself, I believe I'm a servant leader. I love giving back. I love giving back to
Good
students.
morning, Dayton Job Corps
I
Center
love it.
students.
Excuse me, I'm sorry about that. I love, as you can tell, I'm at work, but I love giving back for students, and I love affecting lives. You know, as far as building that career and personal development of students and of just individuals as well. I'm a family man. Family brings me tremendous joy. And also, I am a Christian. Of course, I believe in God, and God has brought me just numerous things in my life, and through knowing Him, has helped me be able to really help others. And so, hopefully, during this discussion, I'll be able to share some insight and share some value for you all.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Victor. Harris, how you introduce yourself?
Great. Thank you. I always like to start with my name, Harris Kojo Glover Tay. It's a mouthful. So Harris, common last name. My mother's from Panama, Central America. Kojo, they name us after the day that we're born. My father's from Ghana, West Africa, and we are from the Tay clan. I always like to start just because it kind of shows the tapestry that makes up the man that I am. I am a head coach with Align Performance. That's where I do executive coaching, diversity and inclusion training. I've been doing D&I work now for over 10 years. It started with my background in community organizing in Dayton, Ohio, where I learned, came out of college just ready to change the world, thinking I'm going to do it. Oh no, that's the work of the people. And again, just like my brother Victor Jones said, you have to be a servant leader. It's not about you. And as soon as you realize that it's not about you, true change, not just true change, but sustainable change can occur. Also, as you see in the background, new co-CEO of Hipster Hops Rabbitry. We are a Black rabbit breeding company. We sell fertilizer. We do birthday parties. So the family, we decided to bet on ourselves to do the family business. So it's a wonderful time. It's full of joy. It's full of family, and it's full of community. So glad to be here for this discussion.
Awesome, Harris. I love the term tapestry. You know, definitely our lives are so colorful and variant. So I love that, and thank you for um, offering your suggestions today. And last but not least, Mr. Walton, Sean Walton.
you would have me go after a guy who just said that he was a rabbit rancher. Okay. I mean, I don't know what I can say. No. My name is Sean Walton Sr. As my Facebook profile says, I am a public speaker, trainer, and servant leader, like the other men on the panel. I am a father, a biological father of two, however, two adult children, 36 and 31, soon to be 32. And I spent a great number of years working with the community. I spent some time building the Community Action Partnership Youth Empowerment Center, winner of a couple of best practice awards. And then moved on to work for the city of Dayton as a community police council, director of community police council, and community initiative to reduce gun violence. And also spent 5 years as youth minister for Grace United Methodist Church. And I've done a few other things throughout the life. All that's just to say that you might be able to listen to just a little bit of what I have to say. But that's it. I'm a consultant. I'm a consultant and just glad to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. Awesome. Once again, gentlemen, I truly thank you all for participating today. So I'll get right into it. I try not to ask each one of you the same question. But first, for Sean, Sean, what defines your happiness?
Peace. Peace. Like literally, you know, that is my prosperity. I've written on it a few different times, you know, kind of short rants and you know, just, you know, a few pieces on it, just the prosperity of peace. And as long as, you know, I control some parameters on my peace, I'm happy. You know, it really doesn't take a lot for me. You know, if my environment is peaceful, if my family is healthy, and if my family is unhealthy, if I'm at peace with that, that's what defines my happiness.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. So what can you say to a young man who doesn't have that environment, to, you know, his perception of peace is not there? What advice could you give to him?
Find spaces, like find peace within your own head. I tell people all the time, I am at the best time inside my head. I can travel anywhere in my head. Read, if you're not really hooked on reading, or you know, have some reading deficits, they've got something called audiobooks now, you know? And so find some good audiobooks, explore a little, go places you've never been before, where, you know, where your feet can't travel, your mind can travel. So I say find things that you enjoy, right? All by yourself. Learn to enjoy your own company. I don't care if it's a closet, clear that space out at the bottom of that closet where you can get in and make it be your own space, right? So try to find some physical spaces that you literally set up that make you feel good just being in it. You know, my house is that. Right now it's a storage unit, but this is the peace zone. For a young person, it may be a corner of their room if they share a room with someone else. But one place that we own all the real estate right now is our own head. So my thing is go into your own head, that creative space, and find you a place of peace all by yourself inside your own head.
Awesome. Inside your own head. I love it. I love it. Victor,
Yes.
What has been, or what are some of the elements in your life that helps to support your personal happiness?
Of course, you know, and I know you're going to hear this a lot. My relationship with God, my relationship with God, me building that foundation has helped me be a better family man. And that comes next. My relationship with God and family. Family gives me tremendous support and happiness. My beautiful wife and two beautiful daughters, they give me that strength to keep on going, and that supportive strength. Of course, being around the correct individuals, those positive influences, those colleagues, friends, acquaintances. Just make sure they're positive. They're positive and good for your emotional health and mental health. So co-workers, as well. All those aspects play a tremendous role in how you treat others. So having that support system, that nucleus support system of Christ and my family is able to provide me knowledge and experience in regards to treating others. It helps me know how to treat others as well. I do believe it's crucial. It's a crucial component of how we feel about ourselves is going to affect how we treat others. And so I focus on those areas, but I also, as the gentleman stated before, self-help books, reading those things that bring self-help and knowledge to make you a better person. I'm always striving to be a better person, so I'm able to help others and love others more effectively. And so those aspects bring me joy and happiness.
Awesome. Thank you. Harris, because of your diverse background, before I get to that, there was a quote by Michelangelo that talks about when he sculpted David. He said he always saw David. He just had to remove away the unnecessary things. So I ask you, what were some of the things while you were growing up? What were some of the things as you matriculated through life that you had to carve out to maintain your happiness?
Wow, that's a wonderful question. Off the back, I would say being able to let go of this notion of this kind of fictitious solid ground. My father was a pastor, mother a deacon in the United Methodist Church. So growing up as a PK, it seemed like everything was just laid out, and expectations were set before I was even born, right? So there was always the way that I was supposed to do things. And, as long as you do those things, then, if you act right, you speak well, you go to the right school, you use the proper etiquette, all of that, then quote unquote, everything is promised to you. And it's funny, we talk about the wisdom of our parents. My mother, I can laugh at it now. It used to make me mad when I was a teenager. She used to go, "You're living a double life. You're living a double life." What are you talking about? I was living maybe 6 lives, and she saw right through it. And the beauty of growing and maturing and becoming a man, I can now look back and I can see that just like you can't serve more than one master, you can't live, you can't live those multiple lives, because all it's going to do is just tear you apart. It's just going to tear you apart. So there's this book by John Ortberg, and it's called "If You Want to Walk on Water, You Got to Get Out of the Boat." Whew. I heard that maybe about 6 months ago, and it just didn't. You ever had something just hold on to your spirit and not let go? Just like the angel, you're just not gonna let go. So it's been a challenge for me to get out of that boat. Means to let go of what I thought was solid ground, what I perceived as solid ground, because the true solid ground is a spiritual, faith-based thing. So, for example, 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with adult ADHD. Turns out that I've had it my entire life. And a big part of my success is my ability to pivot and view solutions in ways that a lot of people don't. But it's because I had to. I was neurodivergent. So it gave me an opportunity to forgive myself, because growing up as a Black man, especially as a Black boy, the assumption was that I was stupid, lazy, or crazy. But I knew how to act right. So being able to make that a part of like my coaching style, and specifically now I work with a lot of executives who, and a lot of people still have that shame and guilt, are dealing with neurodiversity, whether it's autism or ADHD, able to help them, especially if they're masking and trying to reveal their true self. So first and foremost, embracing being a neurodivergent executive leader. That's number one. Number two is embracing therapy. It was my therapist who figured out that I had ADHD. The therapist knew before I took any test, said, look, brother, you got too much going on. But I got married 11 years, thank God. And I always tell people the greatest gift you could give your spouse is you doing your own work. Because 9 times out of 10, any issue that you're going to have is because of your own unresolved issues. I think we already said it, a heart at peace versus a heart at war. So there's doing my own work. And then finally, I would say the biggest obstacle is getting out of that boat. Just recently, I decided to leave the corporate atmosphere and pursue our family business. My wife's an artist. I've been an artist. I've been doing executive leadership, operations, community organizing for a number of years. And I turned 40 this year, so I feel like it's time, we're at a transition season, one of those round numbers. I'm 39, I'm going to turn 40. So the obstacle is just feeling like I have to know what's coming next. The obstacle is not leaning on the faith. My father's a PK. I know all about it. But it's one thing to know about it and actually do it. So let me stop monologuing. But I just wanted to share all of that, just bet on yourself. But at the same time, lean on God, because that's the only solid ground that's true.
Beautiful. Thank you. Sean, I know you have a lived experience, and you have older children in terms of adult children. What were some of the things that you've had to tell them or guide them through to create their happiness journey?
It's interesting because my son was sending out a text this morning. I wasn't able to respond yet, but he was talking about the Kendrick Lamar album, right? And there was, I guess, a track on there called Father Time or something like that. He's like, this wasn't my experience. But so I listened to a little bit of it as I was getting ready. And he was talking about having daddy issues and that sort of thing. And I said, I'm going to respond to him, reminding him of a time. I'm going to say, son, listen, I was just trying to help you to win the karate tournament. One of the things, my son was very, very young, and he was in a karate tournament. And, he was a brilliant kicker. I mean, he was really, really, really good, like feared as a white belt because his feet were amazing. Well, there was another young man and a young white kid. And, it was kind of clear that the refs were not going to be very fair. So as my son was kicking, my son would kick near his head. Well, if he kicked the young man in the face, it was like on script, the young man would cry. And it became clear that you're going to get disqualified because the young man's going to say he can't continue, right? So this is what I did to his little face. And it could have even been he could have been maybe 7 or 8. I took him by his little face and I looked in his face. I said, do you want to continue to compete in karate? Right? He said, yes. I said, okay, then you're going to have to recognize that I understand, but cheating exists. And racism exists, and a lot of these things that we're going through, okay, this is just a part of our competition. I'm not saying it's fair, but it's real. So you need to kick him everywhere but his face. Now go out there and win. And that's what he did. That's one thing that I told my son, just those challenges in life. And similar things with my daughter. You first off, know who you are, understand a lot of the struggles out there today, and it's not you that's defective. There's been a lot of work putting into making Black folks defective. There's a lot of work that's gone into that. So we had an understanding of where we came from, what happened to us, also our potential greatness. So I introduced them to greatness in us very, very early. And I said, now that we know all of that, we're not going to use that as excuses or barriers. We're going to stack those barriers on top of one another. And we're going to use those barriers as steps to climb to the top. So that's just my kind of, navigate life. First, acknowledge the pain, right? But history is important for a couple of things. One, so you can know what happened, know what happened to you. Of course, I understand that, it's important. pull things that are great, so you know what your possibilities are, you know what your potential is, right? And so we can avoid some of the same mistakes. That's it. But if we, I don't stay stuck in the history of kind of the understandable victim state, right? Use that history to say, okay, this is what happened. How do I maneuver around that while at the same time acknowledging your humanness and your wholeness and your ability to be hurt, but persevere and stack those barriers.
Awesome. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Thank you for that, for those tidbits of knowledge. Victor, in your journey, your happiness walk, what were some of the potholes or the obstacles that you either fell into or had to maneuver around?
Wow. I've had quite a few, quite a few. I grew up in a predominantly Caucasian area. Most of my life, from kindergarten all the way up to 12th grade, for the most part, I was the only African American in class. And so, and for most part, I have nothing really negative to say. For the most, 99.9%, I was treated well. I was treated well. But there was some insecurity there, of course. I was insecure a little bit because I was the only African American in the class for the most part, except for maybe a very few classes. And also, I didn't see too many Black leadership as far as Black instructors, Black administrators. I did not see too many people who looked like me. So it affected me. It affected me, and it made me feel insecure and a little bit, less than. And I had to really work at that. I had to really work to overcome that. There was an individual who came as a long-term substitute teacher who was a Black gentleman, and he was my mentor. And he was a gentleman who motivated me because I was able to see him in that professional position. And like I said, he was the motivator to show me that I can be a professional. I can do this. My parents, tremendous parents, wouldn't trade them in for the world. I loved them dearly. They just did not have so-called professional positions. So to see him in that area and to see him perform those type of on that type of level and skill level, it helped motivated me. And he took me under his wing, and it really assisted me and showed me that I can go to college and I can be more. But I had to work through that. And in certain times in my life, I still do. So certain insecurities, of course, you have to find ways to learn and navigate through those obstacles of how do I achieve, how do I become better. So and also another slight obstacle was being the only one in my family to graduate college. I'm a first generation college graduate who went on to obtain his master's as well, cum laude. Cum laude. And so those were some obstacles that I had to navigate through. I had to navigate through those because being the only one, there's certain things that, certain information that my parents they couldn't give me because they hadn't been there. But I did have family members who did, and I did have certain professional individuals who I gathered information from. I wanted to connect with them to see how they did it. I had to grind to obtain knowledge in order to get to where I wanted to be. And another obstacle was learning to not care what other people thought of me. That's an obstacle that we continuously have to work with. But through my knowledge of being around positive people, and through my knowledge of also uh, reading the Bible, of course, it helped me to understand that it's not about what others think of you. It's about what you think of yourself. It's about your strength that you have. And a lot of times, if you are feeling like less than, or you feeling like people are giving you negative feedback or negative comments about you, a lot of the times it's about them. It's about their insecurity. So it was those were learning experiences that I still continue to learn from today. That everyone's going through certain situations, and a lot of times if you receive negative judgment, it's not because of malice against you. It could be something that the other individual is going through. So I had to learn knowledge of self. I had to learn how to love myself. I had to, as I stated earlier, focus on positive things, learning positive information, and growing from that. I had to learn those things of where, hey, this is where I excel in. I'm a good communicator. I know how to motivate students. I know how to motivate individuals to get the best out of them, because those are things that I continuously work on for myself. And so you have to, those insecurities that you have to work on them. And you have to find out what are the things that make me stand out and make me feel like not only can I produce a value for myself, but through my knowledge of self, I know that I can produce value for others and help them obtain their goals as well. So you have to avoid the negative critics. You have to avoid the negative critics, and you have to be and gather information about positivity. That's what I'm about, a positive individual. And that's what I work on continuously. Work on those things that build you up, and through that knowledge, you'll be able to not only assist yourself, but you'll be able to assist others as well.
Thank you, Victor. And I love the fact that you talked about insecurities.
Yeah,
You know,
definitely.
for Black men, we're full of them. It's starting from little kids all the way up to adult men. There, definitely have been some insecurities that we can all relate to and understand as Black men. Um, but with that said, Harris, and I want you to think about, and I'd ask this question, the connection between love and happiness, um, love of self, love for another individual, love for community. What has been the important factors um, with yourself in terms of love, helping to substantiate or support your happiness?
Wow. You said there were no I gotchas. Oh man. Let's see. So let me just start with my core. One of the things that I always say is that love is an action word. It's a verb. So when I think about, so it's complex, right? So one of the things that I'm actually praying over is they call it the action imperative. And sometimes us as men, we feel like we are not worthy of love if we are not performing in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So before I just jump down and be like, it's an action word, it's what you do, I have to make sure that I'm being authentic with my current journey, right? So love, instead of me leaning towards the verb, which still is in my spirit, I will say it's about grace. It's about understanding that you are worthy of happiness.
Yes.
You are worthy of joy. So taking it back to what my brother Sean was saying, we have so many external factors that have to validate whether or not we feel like it's even okay to be happy. And then when we're miserable, especially if we haven't embraced it, now we're making other people miserable. And then we have this whole miserable tribe. You know how they talk about paying it forward, you know, with good things. Oh man, we could just pay it forward with misery, and then wonder why our communities are suffering, wondering why there isn't this season of abundance around us. Is because at every turn we're denying our true nature, which is a nature of peace and love. Because I mean, just to think, if we treated everybody as if they were completely deserving of everything that this world has to offer, because those are the actions that make our community, the way we treat each other, right? And then how it pays itself forward. So, you know, how does love relate to happiness? It's about truly understanding grace. And I'll add one other piece. I've been thinking about a lot about the scripture around the peaceable kingdom. My younger brothers and sisters, they're like, oh, the king, you know, it's in king, that's sexist. So the peaceable kingdom is what I'm gonna call it, right? The peaceable kingdom, because we family, right? There's this notion about the lamb, was it the wolf laying with the lamb? And I always found that to be kind of kumbaya, yeah, everything be great when Jesus come back. All right, cool. But the actual divine factor for me is the wolf always has the power. Like, let's not pretend that if the wolf is laying with the lamb, that it's the same agreement between the two, right? So it goes against our human nature to actually choose peace, to actually choose love. That's the decision part, right? So that lamb has to trust that the wolf won't devour him, and the wolf has to work to say that I'm not going to lean into that quote unquote nature. So I'm going to choose to be different. So when they say happiness is a choice, it's about choosing grace and choosing to be different. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to be toxic happy and just pretend like the pain doesn't exist. No, but I am going to do the work to show grace to others, and just hope that permeates the community.
Wow. Grace is so hard of a construct to learn, especially when if you're in turmoil, or if you're in a constant state of friction, not only with yourself but with other people. So that learning that grace, man, that's so tough. And I love that parable of wolf and lamb, so that you can have understanding, but you may not necessarily have agreement under those terms. So I like that wolf and lamb parable. Sean, I definitely respect your walk of life and the things that the man that you are. But were there some things that you have had to forgive in order for your happiness to crystallize?
Absolutely. There's some things in myself that I had to forgive. There's some things in my parents that I had to forgive. And there's most of all some things in humanity that I had to forgive. One of the things is we know that we want grace, that sort of thing. It's difficult to give grace. And a lot of that is about our insecurity. And sometimes we even have to forgive ourselves for being insecure. We'll fuss at ourselves about things that we're trying to work on. Dang, quit being so insecure. So one of those things is kind of forgive also things that other people put on me, like things that were perhaps positive, but I internalize them as negatives based upon what other people said. So like I tell, just live long enough. Most of that stuff that people are, less than 1% of the people in the world own the wealth. Now, we're not going to talk about all the trickery and all of that. But I mean, when I say even the prosperity, and for me, the prosperity is peace. There are 99% of the people who are running in one particular direction and, true blue sheep, they're just going with everything. It's that less than 1%, it's that standout that achieves the actual prosperity. And so if we can forgive ourselves for the things that we think are imperfections now, but be realistic, because not everybody's hating. And even a hater can tell you the truth, okay? So if a hater says to me, right, and here's part of my understanding of forgiving people. If a hater, if who I think is a hater, says to me, Sean, you stink, okay? Now they may be saying it from a bad place, but I'm still gonna do this to make certain that I don't smell bad, right? Now, a friend can say the exact same thing. So part of that forgiveness keeps me in a constant place of returning to peace. Like Brother Victor said, it's something you work on. All this is something that you work on. When I was less secure and more unforgiving, folks may have developed a new level of respect for me because I didn't raise hell, but I certainly would throw some hot water on it to put it out, right? So I was very unforgiving in that particular way because I was still worried about folks trying to take advantage of me because I have also a very nice side, right? So once I realized that, man, that forgiveness and forgiving the humanity in people, because we are all human, that forgiveness has led to major love for myself. I'm good with how I am. I'm not perfect. I got things that I need to work on, but I forgave myself. Listening to my parents' stories, any pent up sorrow that I had for them, things they did not do. I didn't have to forgive them. It actually moved. Once I heard their story, I moved past forgiveness to flat out empathy. Like, man, thank you for not putting us in trash cans because you had the worst, you got dealt a hand that's just amazing. So part of forgiveness is knowing your own story, right? Being able to retell your own story to yourself, knowing the people around you's story whenever possible. Ask people questions and listen. It helps you forgive them. It helps you understand them, right? Right. And also knowing the story of Black people, because oftentimes we can be very hard on one another. So we have to continue to retell our story to ourselves so that we're not making excuses, but we are making understandings that we are not just somehow genetically defective, quite honestly, just factually and statistically speaking, we're quite gifted. And historically speaking, we are quite extraordinary, as a matter of fact, right? But we have to continue to tell our own story so that we can forgive some of those things that we see on the outside exterior right now, some of those behaviors we see, so that we can get to that, real love and confidence. So hopefully all that mixed in, that little gumbo I gave y'all, brings you back to, that's where that the forgiveness is a whole body for me. It's me, the people around me, and the world around me whenever possible.
Awesome. I want to drop the mic right there, but you said so much in terms of and I call it holding on to forgiveness. You have to hang on to it because the things in nature, that we encounter will definitely make us act out in ways that will take us back to our old self. You talked about retelling the story so you can sort of recall the hurt, empathize, so you can learn how to empathize with someone, putting yourself in someone else's shoes, and that's learning our history as Black men and committing yourself. And I just think that for us as Black men, we need to cling to those principles and hang on to them, because it's easy to let go. It's easy to give up. It's easy to say, you know what, only I'm going through this, even though we have a shared history. And I love that. Dr. Martin Luther King says, forgiveness means a willingness to go any length to restore a broken relationship. And as you all can attest, as Black men, as Black people, we have a lot of broken relationships. The most important broken relationship sometimes is with us, and we get in our own way. We're in a perpetual abusive relationship with ourselves. So that in itself is not a good thing. But I'll be quiet there. Victor, I want to ask you if you had your board of happiness, your board of directors for your happiness, who would be on it?
Wow. So that's deep. my board of happiness. Definitely, definitely my family, my wife and my two children would definitely be on it. My mother would be on it. I've got to incorporate my pastor. I got to incorporate my pastor. And oh my goodness, that's a good question. I love a good self-help instructor. I feel like I need them. You know, I'm constantly listening to a lot of self-help YouTube videos, to be honest. You know, I'm listening to a lot of, I listen to some of the ones that you all probably heard of, but not maybe some of the younger crowd hasn't. Jim Rohn or the Les Brown, you know, these individuals, I love positive. I love to be around positivity, and I love leadership, and I love motivation. And so that happiness, I would have to have my wife, my two daughters, my pastor, and maybe incorporate a self-help instructor, a solid self-help instructor as well.
Awesome. I am going to ask, Harris and Sean the same question. I'm real curious to hear your answers in terms of your board of directors when it comes to happiness. Who guides you? I'll start with Harris.
All right. I'm just gonna go ahead and just say, just copy and paste my mother, wife and kids. If this ever comes back up, y'all were first. Y'all go dig it in the graves. So let's see. All right. So outside of my foundation, I don't know if you just heard the kids. They don't care what daddy do. So I would have to say my father, who has passed, and I feel like I know him more now. That now that I've become a father and become a man and can now reflect on who he was, because my father and he passed when I was 23, 25, and at that point in time in my life, I was at that stage where it was like, this is who I want you to be as my dad. And the older I get now, it's about, this is the man you were. And I see now traits in the decisions that I'm making and understanding him better. So that kind of, and again, now I'm going to get into, kind of our African mythology, knowing that our ancestors are there, knowing that a lot of their experiences on this plane isn't who they were spiritually. You know how they say never talk evil of the dead. There's something about their greater self that rests within my spirit that I know is a part of my pantheon, for me to not just to be happy, but to live into everything that I can be for myself and for my family. Also, so I got deep real quick. All of Wakanda, they got my back. And then I would say my therapist. I've had a therapist now for 7 years. And there's something wonderful about having a therapist that can see your patterns. There's something about your therapist, like, it's about year 3. I don't know if you know this, but this is what's coming around the bend. Being able to have someone who can call you out in love and accountability is a wonderful thing. And let's see, would there be any last one? In particular, I'm gonna say my mother, and I want to put a little emphasis on my mother for a moment. I grew up in Baltimore City, and I didn't really realize how violent my upbringing was until I really started working in white spaces. I don't know. I'm sure you brothers have had the experience. You tell stories about your past amongst your peoples, and it's all laughs and jokes, and then you say it in mixed company, and they're like, "Oh my God." I don't know if you have experience. Maybe I'm the only one who say they clutch their pearls, you know, and then you're like, maybe I shouldn't tell this story in public, you know. But there was one situation in particular where I could have lost my life, and I remember, yeah, Caribbean mother, she don't care if your eye falling out. You do the wrong thing, you catching it, right? But there's something about the prayer of a mother that just feels uniquely divine. And I would say that I've seen those prayers play a role in the happiness of my family, myself, my community, our church. There's just something about the prayer of a mother that gets a special seat in that pantheon. So,
yeah. Before Sean goes, I definitely like the fact that you said therapy. I definitely need to make an appointment myself, but I think it's important that we tell, when we talk about our lives, and just really talk to a third party, you know, that doesn't necessarily have any stake or ties into in a non-judgmental way, that you're able to just speak about what is ailing you, think about things that are perplexing you. For no one's immune to going to therapy, and I think it's beautiful that, you know, I think we all should go. We all should, you know, I have gone in the past, and I definitely view it as a positive thing. So I thank you for being vulnerable to. God knows we all need it. So thank you.
Hey, priceless. Yeah.
Okay, Sean, I'll ask you, who is on your board of directors?
Okay. All right. I've had a chance to listen to a few great answers. No. I got an advantage a little bit. You're saying that was a first, it would be, well, I can love everybody in my circle, but not everybody can be on my board of happiness. Okay. It's not that I don't love them, but I'm a person who believes in passion, compassion, but also competence. So there's a certain sort of a thing you have to have, and nothing against you if you don't have it, but you can't make it on my board of happiness. That's an important board, right? Because that's a governing board, not an advisory board, all right? So first, it would be people who appreciate me for me, just as I am, right? Appreciate, but don't necessarily tolerate anything that might be clearly negative or destructive. So folks who do that, people who nurture me back. I'm a nurturer. I'm a serial nurturer, and I can't help it. But I end up empty a lot because not a whole lot of people understand the concept of nurturing me back. And me being nurtured back is so connected to my happiness that is a must-have, and I figured that out. And also, people who understand the responsibility of their gate. My peace and my happiness, it's a fence around each and every one of us. Everybody we put on that board is a gate. So all by my little old self, I'm completely boxed in with good and happiness. So when I bring people in, I have to give them a gate responsibility. That means that you have to understand that you are the keeper of that gate. And if you're not competent enough to understand the importance of what peace means to me, so don't bring me no unnecessary mess. If somebody's swinging at my head, definitely holler duck, and I'll know to swing back, right? But anything outside of that, it's okay to come to there and bring it to me. But once you see how I'm getting down and see how I correct myself when I say something overtly negative, when you see that, then you understand the responsibility of your gate, because I've made it clear in the way that I live my life in my standard. So that's what it is. It is folks who appreciate me for me, the way I am, but don't, but love me enough to also say, hey, yeah, you should maybe think about that, right? And also understand if I say I'm okay where I am right now, because number one, I'm just gonna be real with you. I am so extreme. I take all extreme advice from God, so it's never an offense, right? You may be brilliant, but you're not smarter than God. Okay, so it's God is the Holy Spirit first. So that's part of understanding and loving me for me, knowing the extreme relationship I have with faith and the Holy Spirit. And like I said, that nurturing is just, oh my goodness, that nurturing is so important, because as givers, we can be emptied out. And it's, men, it's hard to say we need nurture, right? But because I'm a nurturer, I require nurture. That's literally recharges my lifeblood. If you want me to be on this earth longer, I can't keep pouring out and not get poured back in. But, like I said, with all that said, that gate, those are gatekeepers. And here's the reality. If I find that you cannot keep that gate of happiness, I have to love you, but take your gate responsibilities, and I'm gonna fence off that side with no gate until I can find somebody who can accept the responsibility of that gate.
I love it. Wow.
Got you.
Wow. Thank you. You once again dropped the mic. I love the gate analogy. And one of my terms of my board is time. Just, I of course, for me, my time equates to peace. So I definitely connect with you, Sean, but anybody who is wasting my time, or that's why I sort of struggle with in meetings. I've said this before, I just struggle with meetings because people start talking about cats, start talking about their dogs, what they did last week. And I'm thinking, wow, I protect my peace by my time. So if you're, doing things that are pressing against my time, and if I feel like I'm wasting it, like you, I'll close off that section. I'll keep moving because I love you, but yeah, you definitely, and you're not being aware of others sensitivity to their space and time. So last question for each of you. And I definitely would like to post that, understanding your gate within your happiness. But what, and I'll start with Victor. What has been the happiest phase of your life? When you look back, is there a phase in life that you say, you know what, I was happiest when or at?
Wow. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, I was happiest. Ooh, that's tough. You're gonna get me in trouble.
All of our loved ones are just leaning in
I
now.
mean, oh wow, oh gosh, I got some, when I first got, when I got married. That's the
Well, I have to say, I wasn't thinking about
yeah,
that, I was thinking about just personal happiness.
yeah,
Just
personal happy. Yeah, personal happy. When and I know that you've heard this a lot. When I really built my relationship with Jesus Christ, I have to say, for me, it changed my life. It gave me the most confidence that I ever had. It gave me the most confidence. It made me be able to love others in a tremendous way, to have certain forgiveness, the forgiveness because forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. All those things, once I built my relationship with Jesus Christ, that really changed my life. It made me have more patience with people, patience and understanding, more self-love, which assisted me in loving others in a big time way and helping others in a big time way. Because I do believe when you are able to love yourself, you're able to love others and treat others better. I mean, it just resonates. You can't help but to be able to affect others in a positive way when you feel positive and good about yourself. It radiates. So that was the best time of my life of growing my relationship with Jesus Christ. It changed my life dramatically. And I'll tell others, love yourself. Love yourself, because when you love yourself, you're going to do more for yourself. You're going to hang around the right people. You're going to study harder. You're going to work harder. You're going to do those things that will change your life in the best way. And it's going to affect others around you. So, yeah, my relationship with Jesus Christ, once it grew, everything changed.
Awesome.
More confidence, everything changed.
Thank you, Victor.
Mhm.
Harris, I'll pose that same question to you. And I'm, of course, we are. I think we're all connected in terms of God. Definitely, definitely instilling in us the virtues of patience, virtues of love, of thinking outside of ourselves, which is great. And wives, of course, children, but your personal happiness. What phase were you in?
Sure. So the short of the answer is actually right now, but I'll tell you what I thought it was up until recently. A prophet spoke into my life. It was actually one of my friend's mothers. I met her in high school, and first time I met her, it was almost like she went into a trance. And she said to me, she doesn't even remember ever saying these words to me. She looked at me and she said, "God wants me to tell you that you cannot skip steps."
Mm.
Like, lady, what are you talking about? All I did was say that my name was Harris. Like, where is this coming from? And throughout, so at around 28 is when I started as somebody for all of our friends in Dayton, Ohio. I was the director of Wesley Community Center. And again, PK, went to college, did accelerated degree program. I quote unquote did everything right. And it felt like that position was, the fruit of my labors. But it was a fast track. It definitely was a fast track to quote unquote success. And it was a great experience. You couldn't tell me anything, opportunities were, manna from heaven type of scenarios. But as life progressed and become a father and just started learning more about even politics and what it means to be not just a man but a leader in a community who has a heart for the people and to be a servant, and realizing that there's some people who will hate you because you love others.
Mhm.
I started to realize that all of that fast tracking meant that there was some internal development steps that I had missed. When the community wasn't happy with me, I thought it was all gonna crumble. But when you have those ups and downs along the way, you realize that tomorrow is another day and the sun will shine, and that the overall arc of your story is going to be what speaks for you, not any one moment, right? So I'm speaking cautiously, even as I say right now, this is my happiest moment, because I know I still have a whole lot to learn. But what's different this time around is the steps that involved self-awareness, the steps that involved learning forgiveness in the face of no apologies, the understanding restorative justice, understanding that sometimes you apologize for something, even if you feel that you haven't done anything wrong, for the nature of either the relationship or just because God has told you to do it.
Mhm.
Because sometimes the way things play out, somebody will come back to you and say, you know what, that was completely different from what I felt it was at that time. And the change had nothing to do with me. So this is a season of acceptance. This is a season of very little ego. This is a season of gratitude. Just saying thank you, God, and really meaning it, not like, thank you for giving me what I deserve. No, thank you because I didn't have to be here.
Right.
Thank you for being in this spiritual place of joy, even in the midst of turmoil. That's a blessing in and of itself. So right now, in contrast, I would say is the happiest time of my life.
Wow.
Very good.
Eloquently said, Harris. I know we're running out of time, but I definitely want to allow Sean to close us out in terms of posing the same question.
Okay. Right now, and I have to say that nothing against some of the things in the past, but right now, and those right nows happen, they go in and out, right? It's kind of ebbs and flows, you know? A couple seconds from now, I may have a bad experience, but I don't stay there. So it's usually for me the right now. If you ask me that 10 minutes from now, give me a second, it's going to be back from the right now because I am at peace, not complacent, but I'm at peace. I am probably in the worst position that I have in many areas of my life that I've ever been in, ever. And I mean that, but I'm at peace with it, not complacent. So I'm doing the things I can to change the things, but I'm at peace, right? And I experience concern, but seldom fear. I don't even fear like death of natural causes at this point. I just don't want to die by a fool, FOOL, fire, flood, high fall, and snake bite, right? Outside of that, whatever it is, I'll roll with it. So, just that, and it was a journey. So I'm not bragging about how good it was a journey, man. If folks only knew, man, if they only knew, but if I could give some of this to you, I would give it to you. And a lot of that really came from me because I don't get real complex. Like my thing literally is my relationship with God, and I say that to people not to beat them with it, not to cut them with it like a sword, but you got to realize God is not only a sword in defense, but God is also a shield. So I keep saying that so folks will know if you just can't find something, get you a concept greater than you. Because if you can only depend on you in the flesh, come on, you behind closed doors and you know everybody around you. So you got to find something greater to you because if I'm the best I can do, wow, I'm in trouble. So everything people see that's good in me, I tell them you got to give that to God because I go by one general thing. We'll go Mark 12:30 real quick. When the teacher asked Jesus, right, what is the greatest commandment? What is the greatest law? And Jesus answered is this: Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord with all your heart and with all your soul and all your mind and with all your strength. The second, this: love your neighbor as yourself. There is no greater commandment than these. So the teacher asked which one, but Jesus gave it back in twins, conjoined twins, formerly known as Siamese twins. So you can't separate the one and have the other. So first off, what we missing that, we stay stuck on love thy neighbor. What I had to work with is love as thyself. Because if I don't love me, I can't love my neighbor. It's impossible, right? And if I can't love my neighbor, I can't love God. So that for me is, that's that whole thing in a nutshell. And that's why it's always the right now, not constantly. So I'm not constantly happy. But man, I get a redo every time my chest rises and falls.
Amen.
Amen.
Good. Very good.
Victor, Harris, and Sean, it has been a wonderful, beautiful time listening to all three of you. I hope that people that are listening have learned something. And it's not just for Black men, but that I know our connectivity speaks to us as Black men. But I know there's a lot of nuggets that all three of you guys have said that people have resonated with. So until next time, you guys are beautiful, wonderful, insightful Black men. And I am truly humbled. I'm always humbled by listening to others speak their truth. So I thank you all. And until next time.
Till next time. Same to you, brother. Take
Love
care.
you, brothers.
Peace, everyone.
Take good care of yourself.
Most definitely. Thank you all. Thank you, Dr. Charlton.
Thank you, Dr. Charlton.